When I smoked, smoking was a vocation. I smoked all the time. It wasn't the only significant moments in my life that didn't involve smoking was eating. And eating was always, bracketed by the fact that in the middle of the meal I would say, in 4 more bites, I can have a cigarette.
I was probably closer to my cigarettes than I was to my husband, my children, everything. Because I didn't turn around every 5 minutes and want to know where my husband was or my children were, but I want to know where my cigarettes were.
When I quit smoking, I lost that friend and companion that's been with me for 33 years, through thick and thin. And it is a loss. And what was interesting to me is the day that I quit, I spent most of the day crying. And it was very emotional. And it was like a grief reaction because I knew I was saying goodbye to this friend.
I was a non-smoker for 6 years, and I had experienced the benefits of being a non-smoker. And then, like happens to many people, I made the mistake while I was on a vacation in France to have 1 cigarette.
Smoking is most definitely an addiction. It's certainly a bad habit, but further to that, it's an extremely powerful addiction.
Often when people look at smoking as an addiction rather than a bad habit, one of the first things that happens is that you realize that you need help, that this is bigger than you. Yes, you have a role in getting better, but you need to get the help that is necessary. So framing it as an addiction helps people understand it for what it is. Secondly, they take it seriously. And thirdly, they'll use what is proven to be effective to help people overcome an addiction. And more importantly, if they understand it as an addiction, they will realize that quitting is not a singular event, but a process, which means it allows them to stay in the game of quitting.
I'm addicted to nicotine, and I always will be, and I know that. And what was a real breakthrough for me was coming to this program and finally hearing that I don't just have a filthy, disgusting habit. I'm not weak-willed. I'm not a bad person. I have a bona fide, legitimate addiction. And when you're dealing with an addictive substance, the only way to get off of it is to be treated like you are an addict.
We know that if you get help, it more than doubles the chances of you being successful. If you get medication, that also doubles the chances that if you try, you'll be successful.
For me, it's really important to be successful. I only wanted to quit once. And I've heard of so many people who have quit who say, oh, quitting is easy. I've done it 100 times or many times. And it's not easy, as I'm finding it hasn't been easy. And if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So I wanted to make sure that I had everything in place so that I could only quit once. So I'm using absolutely everything at my disposal.
Quitting is one of the hardest things I've ever done twice. Because I quit twice. I stopped smoking the first time for 6.5 years and then started again. And so quitting both times was one of the most hellacious experiences I've ever endured.
I found it easy. The reason probably is because I wanted to. And if there was any, type of help, then fine, I was able, ready and willing, able to use it. I was about a pack and a half smoker a day. I wasn't just one here or there. I was a full-blown smoker, you might say.
It is a series of trial and error, but at every time you try, you actually learn something so that you can apply and tweak it the next time you try. You're much more likely to be successful than if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again without learning from your previous experience. So previous attempts are very important to learn from.
I started to experience all the things that I hated about smoking, the smell of it in all my clothes, the coughing that I started to have first thing in the morning, the anxiety that it created in my life, where I was like looking for that next opportunity to have a cigarette. And before I knew it, I was a full-on smoker again. So I thought, no, I don't want this. I've got to do something to quit. And I tried several times just quitting on my own and was unsuccessful. And eventually I heard about a quit smoking group that was set up. And so I did that. And now I'm a non-smoker again.
The night that I had set to quit, I couldn't do it. I was just freaking out. So I went to bed. In the morning I got up. I smoked 6 cigarettes and had 3 cups of coffee, and then I put on the patch and I walked out of the door. And it was like the only thing I can compare it to, because I was skiing the previous weekend, and I'm not a good skier, was getting off the chairlift, getting on the mountain, looking down, you're absolutely terrified, but you know you can't go back on the chairlift because it's gone. And standing there, and the longer you stand there, the more nervous you get, the more terrifying it gets. And you just finally have to just do it. I don't ever want to be in that position of standing on top of that mountain looking down terrified again, because once I put on the patch and knew I had done it, there was such a feeling of relief.
I think there is some fear with quitting smoking in that if you've had this habit for so long, it's unimaginable to be without it because it is so much a part of you. But having quit for perhaps a week, you start to learn a new way of being that is without a cigarette, so it comes more easily with time.
I've been engaging in a behavior 15 to 20 times a day, every day for 33 years. And it was a behavior that was pleasurable, relaxing, all those other components, in addition to being addictive. Now, because I'm on the patch and there is nicotine coursing through my veins, I don't have any withdrawal. I never ever feel that, oh my God, I've got to get out there and have a cigarette. I'm amply supplied with nicotine. What I don't have is the whole pleasurable aspect and the relaxing aspects and all those other complex things that are associated with the behavior.
Over time, we know those associations can fade. They don't go away completely, but they get associated with new activities. And so it's understandable why smokers might feel they'll have to relearn, and it's not untrue. You do.
When you quit smoking, you have to do it for yourself. Nobody can tell you to quit smoking. It has to come from the inside. There has to be whatever reason. But when you're ready, you will give up smoking.
This time in quitting smoking, it's more of a reality check and more fear-based, based on that I've smoked for 34 years. I was a pack-a-day smoker, so a heavy smoker. And given my age and the recent scare within the hospital, I certainly feel far more motivated in that this attitude of it can't happen to me is now dispelled.
I went for a chest x-ray and they found pneumonia. So I thought, oh, great. Here we are. Anyhow, I got over the pneumonia and I thought, now is my time. I better do something about this, this smoking. I want to eliminate it, from my lifestyle.
In the spring, I was diagnosed with the early stages of COPD. And my doctor said, you probably can't reverse it, but you can stop the progression of it if you quit smoking now. And so that was the wake-up call where you can no longer live in denial that there's nothing happening to you.
Clearly, we have this sense of infallibility and immunity from bad things happening to us. So smokers will often think, that won't happen to me. It may have happened to somebody else. So they have ways of protecting themselves from actually taking action because of the addictive nature of tobacco smoke.
And I'd left it and I'd ignored all the signs. There was a lot of damage that had been done that couldn't be rectified. If I had not stopped smoking when I did, I probably wouldn't be alive today. Well, I know I wouldn't be. But if I'd stopped 10 years earlier, I probably wouldn't be sitting here with the oxygen on.
I think the smokers we see at one level, always wish for a magic bullet. And I see that with all medical conditions. People want that magic bullet. And smokers are no different. Clearly, when people have tried different ways of trying to get rid of their smoking addiction or get it under control and repeatedly are failing, they're desperate for something. However, what I really explore with them is what is the sentiment behind that wish for a magic bullet, because we don't have a magic bullet that will work with every smoker. But we certainly do have strategies, a combination of behavioral strategies, medication, that can really increase the chances of that individual being successful when they try to quit. All I ask people to be persistent, because in fact that is what always in the end leads to success.
Somebody else's doctor, I thought was put it really succinctly. You've got two choices. You either age or you don't. It's as simple as that.
You need to determine when are your most important cigarettes and when are your least important cigarettes. Can you cut back on the least important cigarettes? If you can start practicing taking out a few cigarettes a day, start with 1. Start with 2. Can you smoke half a cigarette a day? And start cutting back. That is a practice. You can start practicing feeling what withdrawal will feel like. You can practice what can you do in place of that cigarette. And this will all be helpful to you in the days ahead when you pick a quit date.
I had strategies in place. A couple of months before I quit, I started going to the gym regularly, took up walking, joined a dance class, and started yoga. And that's great, because what you come to realize when you quit smoking is that you have a lot more time. When I'm engaged in something, even like last night I was at a casino thing, and some of the people that I was with kept going out for cigarettes. It was fine. It didn't bother me at all. The association of being around smokers doesn't affect me. I was busy. I was engaged in the blackjack and doing other stuff. And it wasn't until I came home at the end of the evening that I walked in the door and I went, oh, now I want a cigarette. And that you don't just automatically lose those associations of, oh, now it's time for, I've even had these automatic thoughts and then went, oh, no, I'm a non-smoker. Sometimes I forget I'm a non-smoker, and I have to remind myself.
I'm now on the 7 milligram patch, which doesn't really feel like much at all. And so actually some days I forget to put it on, and for the most part I'm fine. But I do want to stick it out and keep wearing it for the full 10 weeks to make sure I don't, slip back.
Some people have used the patch, other people's, but I find that inhaler because I think with myself it was always like, the hand to mouth for the cigarette. So you'd hit that little inhaler and you just take your nicotine and then you were fine.
Because people have this inherent distrust of medications, generally they take it for 2 weeks or less. So when people have come to us and say, well, I tried the nicotine replacement, or I tried Zyban, or I tried this laser, or I tried acupuncture, whatever it is I tried, it didn't work. My first job is to find out, what do they mean by didn't work, and what do they mean by I tried. Often we've had people who've said, well, I put the patch on for a day and, I felt like smoking the next day, so it didn't work, and so I took it off and I went back. Or somebody who'd say, well, I took the medication for a week, I stopped smoking for a week, and therefore I stopped the medication.
I have had a couple of breakdowns since I've quit smoking. One of them was on New Year's Eve, and the other one was on my birthday. And just happened to be close to about a month apart. Am I happy about that? No. Was I able to rationalize it? Yes. The way I looked at it is if I can minimize those times and hopefully eventually totally eradicate them from my life, that's all right. I'm not going to beat up on myself because I had a bit of a breakdown. I think many people do. I think the important thing is that you go back to being a non-smoker that next day and you say to yourself, no, I'm not going to allow myself that excuse again.
Having not smoked or tried not to smoke, in fact, I hadn't smoked for a week, and then to have a cigarette again through a silly situation that was just stressful is you feel very defeated. However, I also know I can try again, and that I'm not defeated, because I will sometimes fall on my knees and I have to pick myself back up.
There's been 2 or 3 times where I was at the point like, that's it, I can't stand this. And you will have those moments. And I think what you have to realize is you're going to have them, you have to anticipate them, you have to prepare for them, and you have to have a plan in place for when they happen.
I mean, I'm proud that I was able to endure the agony of, because the 3 weeks that each time I quit smoking, the 3 weeks that it took was horrible. And I pity those who are around me, because I was not a nice man.
Your everyday lifestyle revolved around, where or when you could have a cigarette. And, now I don't worry about that. And I'm glad of it, too.
Think of this like the abusive lover that you're giving up, because, yes, there were some things that are good, but the net is that you're actually worse off with it in your life.
I noticed that my cat came and started sitting on my knee more after I quit smoking. Seriously.
And talking about this today, I realized, gee, I was hooked. Really and truly hooked, and I think I'm bloody marvelous to have given it up.
Talk to a healthcare professional who's knowledgeable about quitting smoking to help create your own quit strategy.